Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of ZB's Horsepower Talk. As always, I'm ZB, Zach Brown. Joining with me, as always, is former 410 Sprint Car crew chief and mechanic, my dad, Jeff Brown. A lot to cover in NASCAR. A IndyCar driver has been crowned champion. Looking ahead for the High Limit and Outlaws this week, and, of course, the final race of the round of 12 in the NASCAR Cup Series. Xfinity Series has their season finale at Bristol, and the Truck Series is starting their playoffs at Bristol. So if that's not confusing enough, let's just dive right into it. To cover at Watkins Glen, they had some really good races this weekend. First times for two things. First time winner of the season, first time winner in NASCAR completely. So in the Xfinity Series, Connor Zelich gets his first ever NASCAR win at 18 years old. And of course, he signed a full-time deal with Dale Jr. and Junior Motorsports for 2025 and then 88 cars. So I think they're off to a pretty good start there. He seems like kind of one of those up-and-comers, kind of like how Corey Day is. I'm just saying because he's 18 years old, Junior knows how to find talent that young. And I think he's only 18. He may be 19, but yeah, he's a young kid. Very talented, very impressive how he was able to save fuel because it was all fuel saving in both series, and strategy played a huge role in both of them. The final restart, final lap comes down through the bus stop. Chris Buescher bumps SVG, and it was clean, very clean racing to go through the carousel, passes him, and he holds him off and gets the win for his first win of the year. He's not in the playoffs, but good for Chris Buescher, good for RFK Racing, going in the right direction. So some good racing at Watkins Glen this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Connor Zelich, he also won the pole and he won the ARCA race the day before. So he pretty much had a clean sweep on that whole day. So that was, I don't know if he's a road race background, exactly where he came from, but he was very impressive. And yeah, with Chris Buescher battling SVG, little bump, no big deal. I mean, SVG, he was all smiles when it was all said and done. He's like, I just messed up. It was, that was he would have done the same thing, give him a little shove, get him out of the groove.
It was hard to tell.
That was awesome. That was good racing.
I couldn't quite tell if SVG messed up in the bus stop, or it was just a lot of aggression
from wrong or something.
Yeah, because Chris Buescher gained so much ground. You don't usually see that without him completely missing the carousel if you shoot it the bus stop too early or too hard. So I mean, it was really good. Again, this is one of my favorite road course races, and like I said, they've always should stick to two, really, the traditional ones, Sonoma and Watkins Glen. I like this being in the playoffs, so this shakes things up big time. And the playoff standings, I'm going to pull it up right now. But this is crazy. This is kind of deja vu, I think, from either last year or the year before with Martin Truex Jr. In the cutoff race at Bristol. I think it was when to make the playoffs or something, one of the cutoff races. And it's a similar thing as before. Joey Logano, of course, is locked in. He's the only one locked in right now. Really, there's about 8 to 9 others that are locked in by just common sense wise.
I don't think
I could ever type right.
Driver that did not have an issue.
Everybody had an issue. Everybody was spinning, and freaking William Byron said, "Let me ramp over Keselowski and see how that goes."
Was a little scary the way his front wheel was right in the netting of Keselowski.
All right. So here's the playoff standings, and this is actually something I would never have guessed. So Austin Cindric's going to make it to the next round. So that's really crazy because he's 43 points ahead. He's third place. Obviously, Joey Logano's first. He moves on. Christopher Bell, he's going to move on. He's 46 above. All these drivers down to probably Chase and possibly Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson. They're probably going to be fine. But you look down here, right past William Byron, you have Chase Briscoe who's +6, Ty Gibbs who's +6, and then these are the 4 drivers that are out just right now. And we can just eliminate Harrison
surprising.
Well, you can eliminate Harrison Burton. I expected him to be out. He's going to be out unless something crazy happens at Bristol. Crazier things happen, I guess, but I don't expect him to do anything. Martin Truex Jr., he's 14 behind. Bristol has kind of been a track that he sucked at lately. He's a good Bristol racer, but he's struggled there lately. So that's one to watch to probably get eliminated. And Brad Keselowski, he's 12 behind. Just, I mean, wow, like didn't expect it. But these haven't been his type of tracks the first couple, except Atlanta, I guess, is a speedway race, but that's just a crapshoot, anyways. It's not his traditional super speedway type drafting track. And then Denny Hamlin, which this is arguably his best track he's going to, one of his best tracks at Bristol. He's 6 behind. He can probably make it in on points, but when you look at Brad Truex and definitely Harrison Burton, it's probably getting to about a must win right now when you're competing against 12 other guys at this point. So it's going to get interesting at Bristol. And if you think they bang bumpers enough at Bristol, it's going to be wild this weekend. 500 laps of just bumping and banging and tempers flaring, and people are going to get in fights and pissed off. It's going to be awesome.
Especially with a couple of these guys that are sort of in a must win, like Denny Hamlin. Probably, and it may not be a must win, but kind of Hamlin, Truex, Briscoe, which Briscoe runs really good at Bristol, surprisingly, or not. So this is going to be interesting. This, for the first time since the playoff thing, there's really been some favorite for the championship drivers, let's say, that are really behind the 8 ball all of a
Well,
sudden. So this is kind
Well,
of
my
interesting.
final four, I'm pretty sure I had Logano, Christopher Bell, Larson, and then Denny. I expected Denny to actually make it to the final four. And if he doesn't make the past this round, I mean, obviously he's not going to make it, but if he makes it past this round, I think he goes on a run. These next 2 rounds really favor his type of tracks. I think he will be fine. Um, but we'll see. I didn't expect Alex Bowman to be doing as well as he is. I mean, do I think Cindric and Alex Bowman are going to win the championship? No. But shit, you never know with this format. So
All you got to do is be in the right place at the right time, get a win. The
especially
next
Alex Bowman,
round.
if somehow he makes it to the final four and it's Phoenix, his home track, don't
I
think he
mean,
won't really.
Bowman's got a better shot at it than
He's got,
Cindric.
yeah. But I mean, you got Daniel Suarez. He's going to be moving on the next round. I mean, my first 4 out, I was completely wrong. I only had Harrison Burton right. Now watch Harrison Burton win. And they're just really.
Right.
I expected Chase Briscoe to be out, which he still could, but I mean, I did not expect Austin Cindric. So hats off to them for doing well these last couple of weeks. It's good tracks for them, Speedway, and then you have a road course.
I
So
was going to say he is a good road course racer.
it works in people's favor. So before we get into previewing Bristol, let's give our power rankings and our fantasy lineups for this week. So power rankings is a little difficult to kind of change up because so many people were having good runs and so many people crashed, so many people got caught up in the restarts where it just did not work out for them at Watkins Glen, and it was just hard to really, hey, who's running where. Well, one person I want to mention that's legitimately sucked the last 4 or 5 weeks has been Denny Hamlin. So
Yeah.
speaking to him, I do have him at number 5. The only reason I even have him still in my power rankings is because we're going to Bristol, and Bristol, he's got a good shot to win. At number 4, I'm still keeping Joey Logano. I mean, he at least finished the race, didn't crash every other lap like some people seem to do. He finished the race top 15. He's in the next round. You got to keep him in the power rankings. Dropping down from number 2 to number 3, I have Ryan Blaney. He crashed out early. He was pissed off the way NASCAR didn't just bring him to the pits first, at least look at his car. Apparently the rule is you have to take him to the garage. He's like, well, you let me look at it if it's flat tires and take me to my pit, but you can't do that here. He's like, it's a weird rule. Anyways, at number 2, I've moved up to Kyle Larson. It's hard to really move people around, but at least Kyle Larson somehow ended up with positive points in this day, and that lot to do with Cliff Daniels. Kyle Larson put himself in a bad position when he had a pit road penalty, but finishing 12th out of all of that, I have him at number 2. And number 1, I'm still keeping Tyler Reddick. He's still probably the fastest car right now and has been the most consistent. He got caught up in all those wrecks too at Watkins Glen, but I'm going to keep him up my top.
Okay. Well, we're close, but I did let's see, I moved William Byron out of the top 5. So I put in this week's winner, Chris Buescher. He's been fast the last couple of weeks. I could see him have a good run at Bristol.
He's won there
Uh,
2 years ago.
Everything else is just about the same from last week. Number 4, I have Denny Hamlin. As bad as Hamlin was, he still ended up with a decent finish there at that racetrack. So, they're like between him and Larson just sucking all day and someone coming home with a decent finish.
Yeah.
That's championship quality crew. That's the whole deal. So Hamlin at 4, Joey Logano at number 3, and my top 2 have switched. I moved Ryan Blaney down 1 just because that was just some awful luck he had, and I bumped Larson back up to number 1 just because, like we talked about earlier, just the perseverance and strategy and getting him back up to have at least a respectable finish. And I think he actually gained 20 points.
Yeah, a significant amount of points. He was
Yeah,
on the bubble, and now he's pretty safe to go into the next round. But it is Bristol; anything can happen.
for
If you screw
sure.
up in qualifying, you could put yourself in bad position for the whole day. Yeah, talking about Bristol night race, one of it's not a crown jewel technically, but it is one of the most iconic races that you'll have in NASCAR. This race likely will be packed as much as it can be anymore. Used to fill up over 150,000 or something. They might only have 100,000 because they keep the bottom section with just banners of sponsors or whatever anymore. But I expect it to be sold out for what it is. And 3 nights of racing, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Truck Series, Xfinity, and the Cup Series on Saturday, of course. All night races. Corey Day is racing in the Truck Series. And if you all have watched this podcast, you know anything about racing, Corey Day is one of the uh, hottest young talents coming up in motorsports right
For
now,
sure.
specifically in sprint car racing. He makes a late model debut. He wins. He's finished in he was running second in an ARCA race until he lost control of the car. It was all on him. But 18 years old, I expect good things. Is he running what for Spire or something? One of those
You know what?
smaller
It
teams?
never said. It just said it was sponsored by HendrickCars.com. I'm going to assume it's probably the Spire truck,
Yeah, the
one of
one
theirs.
the one that Kyle Busch was running or whatever.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know if it's the 7 truck or a team truck to that
Yeah.
one or whatever they're
So
doing.
it's probably good equipment. I mean, don't put it past him to finish well at this race. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't pick him to win,
No, I
but
didn't either.
don't put it past him to have a decent finish.
That would be awesome if he did.
Bristol's a different beast. If you can go in and
Yeah,
win
for
Bristol
sure.
your first time ever doing it, and especially you're not even racing any asphalt tracks, that is beyond impressive. Um, Xfinity Series, this is Dale Jr.'s supposed last race in NASCAR. So what he says, I'm not
Yeah,
buying it. I think he races Rockingham next
I
year,
think he totally races Rockingham.
but we'll see what happens. I mean, that's what he's saying right now. I mean, take what you will. Uh, there's going to be a good crowd on Friday night to see Junior, and he led 40 some laps last year in this race. Had a shot to win it. I think Allgaier ended up winning, and I think he was more excited that Allgaier won. He could have shut up at the end of the race. I remember that, and I think his suit
Is
caught
that
on
where the thing
fire.
caught on fire?
Yeah, he was saying something.
Yeah, he
I
got
remember
excited.
the
He
interview.
can't
I just don't
understand it.
remember what he said, mainly because I couldn't understand what he said because his hillbilliness just straight out came at him. And but he was stoked that one of his drivers won. I think Allgaier gave him a lift to victory lane too. I think he told him to give him a ride.
I think he hopped on the
Uh,
side of the car.
but expect a good race in Xfinity as well. Truck Series is going to be a crash fest. They've been off for a couple weeks, so they're itching to get back out there and destroy $500,000 trucks again.
Oh yeah, that's going to happen.
Um, all right, before we give picks, as always, let's get into our fantasy lineups for the NASCAR Cup Series. I have no idea what's happening in the fantasy. I don't know if you win the playoff, you win the whole thing, or you win the regular. I don't know. I hope it's just regular because I'm doing well in that one. Playoff, not so much. But last week sucked for both of us. Actually, all three of us really didn't have great days. It was just
No,
like who was the suckiest. This week, again, I'm going pretty much a team lineup. So I'm going to give you mine. No, never mind. You give yours first because I'll be damned if you say you have the same ones again. So you give your lineups and I'll give you mine.
all right. So this week I have Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and in my garage is Brad Keselowski.
For the most part, we're different.
Good. So in my
Ish.
featured matchups, I have Larson over Denny Hamlin, Keselowski over Martin Truex, Ty Gibbs over Chase Briscoe, and Chase Elliott over Ryan Blaney.
Well, son of a bitch, we don't have to change our matchups at all. I don't have to say mine because they're identical. But my starting lineup this week, I've got Denny Hamlin in almost a must-win situation. Kyle Larson, yes, I know that you have those two. Here's where it gets a little bit different. I put Chris Buescher in there. He's finished top 5 the last couple years. He won a couple years ago.
Yeah.
William Byron, I have. He's finished top 5 the last couple years. And I do have Christopher Bell as well. And in my garage, though, I do have Ty Gibbs. He's had a solid finish last year. He's pretty decent at Bristol. And the matchups all the same. Here we are with the hot picks by DraftKings. The favorite for this weekend is Denny Hamlin. Not surprising. This is one of his better tracks, like we mentioned. I'm sure another hot pick. While I swipe, it's going to be Larson. Oh no, it just goes. Yeah, it is. Okay, I thought I was about to say Larson's the second highest favorite to win. I don't know. I would almost avoid the favorites because this is an elimination race and shit's going to hit the fan at Bristol. That's all I'm saying. It says avoid Ryan Blaney. I swear they always tell us to avoid Ryan Blaney. I feel bad for this guy. He's the defending series champion. You're going to tell me to avoid him. It says avoid Kyle Busch. He had his little bit of run. Don't expect him to do well in this one. I actually expect him to wreck. It's kind of what I'm kind of going for here. He's good at Bristol, but I think his luck's run out this year. Sleepers, Ty Gibbs, solid racer.
I'd agree with that.
He's won in the Xfinity Series. He's run top 5 last year in the night race at Bristol. Expect him to be in contention, and the Toyotas to be pretty decent this race too. All right.
Now this week, do they have the softer compound tires again for the short track?
I didn't hear anything about it. I did not hear anything about it, but I hopefully they do. Well, let's look. Tire compounds for the NASCAR Cup Series, or just Bristol.
I was thinking they were doing it to all the short tracks.
Well, I know Richmond was kind of like an experiment. They're having the resin instead of PJ1. Doesn't look like I don't see anything about the different tires.
Okay. That might make the race a little more interesting if they had the
they're using the resin like they did in the spring. I think they wanted to keep the same though because of how the tires were wearing out in the spring, and it made it for decent racing. I don't think the tires will wear it as much because it's a night race and they traditionally will have more grip. With 3 races there with the trucks, Xfinity, and the Cup, a lot of rubber is going to be laid down. I think there'll be a lot of grooves in this race. That's just what I'm thinking. I could be completely wrong, but that's what I'm kind of predicting for this one. But you're still going to have to manage tires. I think it's going to come out to a veteran to win this. And there's a lot of veterans in this field. But let's start with the Truck Series. I've kind of got a sleeper, so let's give our picks and go ahead with your pick for the Truck Series.
Trucks, I don't know. It seems like we kind of keep picking the same ones all the time, and I'm sticking with that strategy. So I got Corey Heim this week for the trucks.
Well, I'm going with the guy that I don't think I've picked this entire year, and why not? I know he's run pretty well at Bristol. So I'm just going to go with him. The dirt racing guy himself, I'm going with Stuart Friesen.
Okay.
Xfinity Series, who do you have winning this one?
So I've been picking Algar all the time, and I've been killing him, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to go with Cole Custer. Gets a win.
I'm going a different manufacturer than you. I've got the Toyota Joe Gibbs car, the 81 car, Chandler Smith. I expect him to do pretty well this weekend. And the Cup Series, who do you have?
So we're talking about veterans, guys fast, runs are harder than about anybody. I got Tyler Reddick for Cup. Mom's pick is Denny Hamlin.
All right. Well, I'm going a Toyota driver too. I picked him last week. He let me down. I expect him to do good things this week. I've got Christopher Bell for Bristol.
Okay.
All right. Well, that does it for NASCAR. We'll jump into our 5 tracks at the end of this. In case you guys were wondering where our 5 international track lists has come at, we are going to reveal it at the end of this. Let's talk about the new, well, I guess not new, it's a back-to-back champion, 3 of the last 4, I believe, championships for Alex Palou for the IndyCar series. That track was bad fast.
Super 208 mile an hour average speed or some shit like that.
It was insane, but the cars, they seemed to race very well at it. Crowd was phenomenal. And let me tell you, Colton Herta wins the finale, and he tried all of his damnedest to get that championship. He came just a little bit short, but to get second place in the championship after that crazy run at Nashville, I didn't even expect him to be in championship contention. Palou didn't have the greatest race, but he didn't need to. He had a big enough lead. I'm telling you, if Scott McLaughlin would have won and Palou ended up where he was, McLaughlin might have won that championship. It was close. So I like that being at Nashville, and it's going to go back to Nashville next year.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I mean, they were just absolutely flying around there. Now I don't know if Nashville has lights on that track, but that'd be cool seeing that.
They do. I'm pretty sure the Truck Series have run Nashville at
I'll say
nighttime.
I think a night race with those Indy cars going 200-mile-an-hour average speed. I think that would just look like bullets flying around there. That was pretty cool. But
Yeah.
the cars were very stable. I mean, they were racing hard and banging wheels, and I was like, shit, you guys are going 200 miles an hour doing this.
Yeah, well, we expected. They expected a lot of good racing out of them, and they raced hard. And I'm glad they're going back there again next year. The next year's season's fairly similar. I think it'll be another solid IndyCar season. Well, that wraps it up for IndyCar for the year for us. And it was Hello was probably a favorite the entire year, and a lot of people mixed in and out. Colton Herta is probably the honorable mention for this year as one of the best drivers in IndyCar,
Yeah, he
and
had a good year.
probably one of the favorites to win the championship next year if he keeps his momentum up. We're not going to get into NHRA specifically because you didn't get to see the highlights yet, so I'm not going to give away anything. I will say it was very good racing at Maple Grove. We forgot about it last week. That's on
Yeah.
us. But we will be trackside this weekend at zMax for the Carolina Nationals. It's just the two wides, but the countdown will begin. And this is where it all starts. This is where their championship run and championship dreams will start from Top Fuel on down. We'll see who gets it started off right. We'll try to maybe interact with some of the drivers there. Little man will be there, so maybe we can they can be like, oh my gosh, he's so adorable, and then sit him in a car and all that stuff, all that fun stuff. We'll have pretty good seats like we did last year, and
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Should be a lot of fun. It's supposed to be good weather. It's going to be overcast, not too hot. I expect pretty quick
Yeah, I'm gonna
times at this track.
I'm gonna have to bring warmer clothes. I'm not used to this.
Yeah, it'll be quick times at the track though. There'll be a lot of grip, especially Saturday. I think it'll be a sunnier day Sunday, so that'll be cool to see. They start in about noon on Saturday, and they race. I mean, they'll race almost damn 12 hours as much as they have to run through. If all these smaller series that are there as well, it'll be cool. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
High limit. Let's just talk about Lernerville real quick, and then we'll dive into the doubleheader that they have at Eldora this weekend. Corey Day probably would have won both
ready
races.
to get out of Pennsylvania though. He's been fast, but had
the first day he wins, so that was good on him. But the second day, his right rear fell off.
Yeah, leading. He was going to win that one.
I think something on the axle broke when they were talking about it. I didn't see all the details,
yeah,
but
the
it
wheel
was
broke or the axle broke.
Yeah, and that was a wild crash. He even said that was probably one of the wildest crashes I've had.
Well, there's no wall, and you go down that hill. He's way down below the track surface.
But he would have won that second day. But after all the trouble and avoiding all the trouble, Sunshine comes out with the win with a $50,000 Commonwealth Classic win. And it doesn't really matter though, because Brad Sweet's pretty much locked up the championship for the High Limit Series. Not really surprising. And the Midweek Money Series is pretty much Sunshine's, so kind of what we expected for this year at High Limit. But they are going to Eldora this weekend. Haven't been there since the King's Royal, so they'll take
the
some
Four
notes
Crown Nationals this week.
Yep, this is a big one. Back to back on Friday, Saturday night.
I wonder if any of them are going to be running any of the other series, because you got the Silver Crown cars, the midgets, the non-wing sprints, and then
his name's Rico. Don't be offending him.
I would be.
See,
yeah, Rico may run a couple classes. I could see.
No, I would expect. I think Larson ran all 3 or 4, whatever, a couple years ago and won all of them.
He won all 4 of them in 4 Crowns.
Yeah. I think that might have been the first time.
That's unreal. I think that's normal. I think it was like 19 when he did that.
It was one of the cars he never even raced in before, and he just goes out and wins it because he's never raced in them before. and I think it was the Super Dirt car, if I'm not
The Silver
mistaken.
Crown.
Yeah, I think he's never raced in it ever, and he just wins. I don't think he's racing in it this week. I don't think he's racing any more sprint car racing this year because of the championship run for the playoffs for
I might
NASCAR.
have to change my pick for Tuesday then.
I wouldn't. Um, I thought it was just Eldora on Friday, Saturday. Am I missing
Tuesday,
a?
October 1st.
Oh, that's 2 weeks. You don't have to pick that yet.
I'm a week ahead. Oh, never mind then. Okay.
Yeah, I'm about to say they don't race again until next um, Friday or Saturday
After I
or
read the
something.
date, I'm like, wait a minute, that's next
Yeah, yeah.
week.
All right. Well, there's just 2 nights at Eldora. We talked about this track. We've beaten it to death, and it's going to be a lot cooler than it was when they were at the Kings Royal. The track's still going to be a tremendous shape as it has been.
It's
They've
going to be
done a great
slick with
job.
all that racing going on.
It's going to be, but it's a good thing it's cool. But there should be a lot of rubber down. I think you have to be banging off the wall to have a. If
I
you could
think
somehow
so.
manage on the bottom and be quick, that's going to be the advantage. But I don't expect a lot of people to be able to run the bottom. So let's just give back-to-back nights. Who are your picks for night 1 and night 2?
So Friday night, I got Sunshine Tyler Courtney. All-star champ, runs there a lot. He's going to be good. Saturday, it's hard to count out Brad Sweet. He's been struggling a little bit, but lately he's been picking up speed some. So we're going to go with Sweet on this one.
Well, I'm going to go with the guy that won a couple weeks ago at Port Royal. I'm going Rico Abreu on Friday night, and the guy you were mentioning. Thank God he's out of Pennsylvania. No, yeah, he should be racing in this because Thursday night. Corey Day wins Saturday. Won't surprise me. 18-year-old. Why not just win Eldora?
Yeah, just put a banger off the wall the whole time, like he's
I
raced
swear, if
there
he
100
freaking
times.
just goes out and wins the Truck Series and then goes and wins Eldora, somebody better sign him like to a cup deal. Um, the World of Outlaws, we'll finish it up and then we'll give our 5 tracks. The only thing to really talk about, Buddy Kovoid's pretty good. He's been on a run. I don't
Yep.
know. I think they finally figure out TRD is getting into the groove of things like they did in NASCAR. It took a little bit of time. They were blowing up in NASCAR at the beginning of it too, but after they figured things out, they seem to be just running so smooth and just launching off the corners better than everybody else. And seems like it suits Buddy Kofoid's driving style too. And he's a very, very humble guy.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing's been running good, and that car's been operating, and he's been driving good. I mean, it takes it all to win an outlaw race, and right now he's been doing everything right.
Is
You
it
got a time trial right.
is it 3 out of the last 4 he's won or 4 out of the last 5, something like that?
Out of the last 9 races, it's either been Kofoid or Carson Macedo,
Yeah, and
something like that.
nobody's can
7 or
really
9
make up
races.
ground. Nobody's still really making up ground on gravel a little bit. Carson Macedo's still second. He's 86 points behind. You're gonna have to do a lot more. You're gonna have to wish some bad juju on gravel to have a chance to make up a chunk
Yeah,
of
even when
ground.
he has a bad night and crashes, they still manage to get that car back out, and he comes
Top
home with
10.
top
Yeah,
10. I mean, it's
yeah.
unreal.
Well, they're doubling up at Thunderbolt this weekend. What are your notes for Thunderbolt?
It's a tight. They didn't really say, but it looks like it's a 3/8 mile. It's definitely bigger than a quarter. They're turning 12, 13-second laps, but the corners look like they're pretty tight. So it's kind of like maybe a smaller Williams Grove, but it's the dark black clay, which is a great racing surface. Looks like it's super smooth. Since what I was watching, it looks like it gets slick to a cushion. So I think running the outside is probably going to be fast. Then it's going to come down to, can you pass the lap cars when they're in your lane? So you're going to have to be able to be decent on the bottom, getting past lap cars and this and that. So there's going to be a lot of sliders going on this week, I think.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Another good weekend. I'm sure
It's
there'll be
the Dennis Roth Classic, so it's a
Roth
salute
Motorsports.
to the Roth 83 Motorsports car owner. So it pays 83,000 to win on Saturday.
Well, that might be foreshadowing some things. But who are your picks for this weekend on Outlaws?
So Friday, I was watching some of the replays. It looks like they haven't raced there since 2022. Gio Scelzi was really fast. So I'm going to pick him for Friday. And Saturday, how do you go with not with the hot guy, owner's tribute race or whatever you want to call it? We got Buddy Kofoid.
Well, I'm not going to do the gimme on Saturday for Buddy Kofoid to win. I actually have him on Friday to win and get 3 in a row in the World of Outlaws. But Saturday, I've got the guy that's runner up in the point standings right now. He's building up momentum. He's doing everything right. It seems like the team's finally clicking on a consistent basis. I've got Carson Macedo.
Okay.
All right. Let's finish it up right here. We've talked about this, so we're giving it doesn't have to be top 5, whatever you want to do. The 5 international tracks that we would like to see NASCAR race at in an actual points paying race.
Now I'm going to say
they're not just ovals.
I don't know if all these tracks that I picked are still operational, race ready, but it would be cool to see them on these tracks, one way or the other.
Well, I'll go ahead and give mine. So there's
and I'm going to botch the names.
Not a really particular order. You can mix and match whatever you want. Some of these tracks that Formula One's raced at, and actually brings me to the very first track that I want to talk about. So let me make sure I talk about this right. So my first track up here that NASCAR could go to internationally is the Yas Marina. It's the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix track. That is a cool ass speedway. They race that one at nighttime, and I think that one, if there is a road course to race on, I think that's not too terrible of a road course. There's plenty of passing opportunities there, especially for the Cup cars. It's a wider
track.
Well, they got some money in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
It's a wide enough track, especially the front stretch. They can make it work. I mean, I'm not saying NASCAR is going to go here, but they insist on going international and for a points race. So why not throw Abu Dhabi up there? Larson actually mentioned he wants to race in that race in Formula One if he got the opportunity.
That's a cool ass track.
The next track I have on here. All right, so this is the oval configuration in Germany. It is a Grand Prix traditionally, but you can configure it to a 2-mile oval. So it's a big super speedway. IndyCar raced here back in the early 2000s. It's like a big ass Milwaukee Mile / St. Louis track mashed into one. It's wider than hell. IndyCar was fast as shit there. I'm going to butcher this, but it's the Lossing Speedway. Lossing. It's in Germany. So Germany be a cool ass event. You think people are drunk at NASCAR races in America? And you give them an excuse to drink in Germany. Yeah, that could be a really exciting race. So don't make me say it again. Germany is another racetrack I'd like to see them go to. The oval configuration of that, rather than the Grand Prix one. All right, so another one. I've got I think it's pronounced the Lac du Chet Motor Speedway in Canada, and it's a half-mile track, short track racing. It's a similar type of track to, I would say, the Clash at the Coliseum and those quarter-mile tracks, but it's a little bit bigger. They race NASCAR Canada there, race late model races there. I think it'd be a good track and actually idealistic for NASCAR to actually go to because it's not a huge haul for them to go. All right, and second to last one, we're going to go down under for NASCAR Australia races here. It's the Australia Winton Raceway, and if I had to put it anyway, it's a similar configuration to Road America, and considering Road America wasn't the greatest, but it still put on all right races, specifically in the Xfinity Series. I think this would be a good track for NASCAR to experiment on. Australia, little difficult with the time difference to do all that, but you would have a pretty big crowd, especially when you get SVG and all the other Aussies that would, well, he's from New Zealand, but the same shit, that would race in it.
And the last, Australia does not have an oval track down there.
Yeah, I know, I tried. They have dirt ovals.
I thought you'd think they would have something like it. They have dirt tracks.
They do have dirt ovals, but all right. So I don't think this one specifically is back. I think it was demolished in an earthquake, but they can also rebuild this if they want to. They can make it. NASCAR in Japan would be pretty cool. I think that they did an exhibition back there early 2000s, and I think this track specifically, I can't remember the name of the track. Don't make me say the name of it because I wouldn't be able to pronounce it
Twin Ring
anyways.
Motegi.
Yeah, that one. And it's probably on your list too. But NASCAR's raced there before, but they lost that track to an earthquake. But you can repair anything. You could remake anything if you wanted to. Japan would be a good country for NASCAR to venture out to. So those are my 5. So you've got Japan, Germany, Abu Dhabi, Australia, and Canada.
Cool. We have some of the same. We got some different. So the first one I came up with on my list when we said this, my first thought was Monaco. Now I think the cars are probably too big to really navigate that tight of a street course. And just seeing the stock car screaming through the underneath that casino would just be badass.
No passing. There'd be no passing.
Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, I think the track's too small, too tight anyway, but it would be kind of cool just to see that. So the next one I have is, and when I was looking on their Wikipedia, it didn't say they were close. So I do have the Twin Ring Motegi in Japan, which they have, it's basically a clone of Darlington as shape-wise. So it's an egg-shaped oval, and they have the road course. So that would be kind of cool to go back there again. That was kind of neat seeing that. And the next one, I have the Haas Marina Circuit in Abu Dhabi. That's just a gorgeous track. I mean, talk about first class.
I don't watch a lot of Formula One. That might be besides Monaco, that might be the only other Formula One race I actually tune into because it is such a beautiful facility. Yeah. And it's like the only racing on that's after NASCAR anyways, because it's like the week after the championship.
So this one, I don't know if it's an active track or not, but it's the Hockenheim Ring, Germany. It is a 12-kilometer triangle-shaped oval, so it's like a really big Pocono.
Jesus.
Yeah, that would be...
It's like double the size of Pocono.
I was going for different. Like, I could have picked Le Mans and the whole deal, I was like... But they already had the, the Project or Garage 54 or whatever the hell that was called. So, and the last one I have is in Australia. It's the Mount Panorama Circuit, which just looking at the pictures of that, it's like in the mountains in the background. It's a beautiful. So I don't know what kind of racing. I think they have the Australian supercars there, whatever they're called now. So, the stock cars could get around that track. But just, I was going for just like looking at pictures. I was like, wow, this one's pretty cool. This would be a beautiful place to race.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, similar country. I think they do have some sort of racing in like Africa or whatever, like South Africa, where it's like the developed part of that. How cool would that be if they build a damn track like right outside the pyramids? That'd be cool. Just build your own. Screw it, why not? But yeah, I really think the Abu Dhabi one would be the coolest one to see. And we don't like road courses, but that's pretty badass. I'd rather replace one of our road courses with that one.
Well, it'd be difficult. Like you see, like Coda. I mean, that's a beautiful facility. The Formula One tracks really are top of the line.
It would be difficult to make work for a points season unless they did it where it's like they do that, then it's their week off. That's the only way they'd be able to do it.
At least,
But that's a haul. How did they get the cars there in Japan? Do they use the ship or do they airplane them?
I was thinking I thought they flew them, but I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Yeah,
you would think that you would just put them all in containers and send them over, but
I'm sure.
I don't know what it takes to cross them in those things. They don't go very fast, so.
Yeah, they might have something where it's there for like a month and it's just sitting there until they can get to it because they had to ship it so early. But I don't know. Amazon can do crazy things anymore, so maybe they can ship it pretty damn next night. I don't know. But all right, well that does it for this week, guys. Make comment below what you think countries will be great at hosting a NASCAR points paying Cup race. Because they are going to Mexico next year. So let's see what other countries would be suitable for NASCAR. I think the most logical ones really are like Canada or Mexico because it's just easy to get to.
Yeah,
but there's some cool. Yeah, there's cool tracks too. So there's different ones. So comment below whatever you guys think, and make sure you follow anywhere you get your podcast, and follow on all social media platforms. And we're back at it again next week. Make sure you tune in at the YouTube channel. We'll be posting a bunch of stuff trackside from zMax this weekend. So we'll see you this weekend, Dad, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yep. Bye, everybody.